Welcome to Inside Games, where we got to play Star Wars Outlaws 6 weeks early?
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
How many weeks? I don't even know what time is anymore. It's a long, long time ago.
It's 2024.
In a galaxy far, far away. That's where I'm at. Yeah, we got to play it. They decked out that Space Crazy. They treated us pretty nice. I guess we'll have to disclose that at some point.
They did. They brought us to like this whole cantina outfitted gameplay capture area, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And then we played for about 6 hours. And then the next day we went to Disneyland and toured the whole Star Wars area. Now, I will say, we played the game before we went to Disneyland.
Yeah.
So,
but before this, so there's a possibility that our opinions have been bought.
I guess. I don't know.
Whatever. But the way I see it is we actually previewed it before we got any of those goodies. And my takeaway is largely unchanged. Okay. I am a little more excited to see it now for reasons other than all the goodies we got. But
yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, Lawrence. Okay, so let's start. What was your... Because I am tentatively positive about this game. But I'm curious to see what your impression is, because I feel like I might be a little biased because I love Star Wars.
No, I was impressed. Okay. And I've been underwhelmed and bored by open world games for a while now.
Okay.
So that's kind of saying something, I suppose.
Yeah.
I got to see more of the open world in this demo versus the last one, which was more caged levels and stuff. And I think their open world is really good.
It is, yeah.
There's kind of like two phases to the open world. One, you're just out in the wilderness finding new activities, and the other is you're in a city and you can't just shoot whoever you want, but you can interact with NPCs and go around and find things. And I think both of those zones, both of those modes are really well done, super well executed for an open world game. When you're outside of cities, the nature of discovery for new quests or NPCs to interact with is actually pretty novel. It retains that feeling that you're going out and finding things versus just being given a list of quests that you then like tick through mechanically. And inside the city, I was super impressed with the detail, the resolution.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. There's tons of varied NPCs in crowds, lots of different alien dudes walking around, a lot of chatter you can hear. Tons of unique animations for all these NPCs to be doing. It reminded me a bit of Cyberpunk and the NPC density and variety you get in some of the like bars and areas in Night City.
This game is made by the same developer that made the Avatar game, and the Avatar game had a few flaws, but regardless, I thought the open world was amazing, and also it's just unbelievably detailed. Like, it was beautiful, and they brought that same artistic vision to Star Wars, and this might be the most fully fleshed Star Wars game that I've seen in terms of art detail. Battlefront 2 from 2017 is as close as you get, and I want to say this is better. I was really impressed with this, and it's very much what you see in the movies, and it's very much what you read in the books and see on the television shows, whatever else. So I love that. One thing I will say about the open world in the cities is that it is not open world. It is directed. So like, you can't just go anywhere you want. Like in Skyrim, like you could glitch your way up a wall or whatever. Like, you can't do that in this. This is there are invisible walls. There are also syndicates that have taken over areas of the city, and then if you go in there, they're immediately like, you gotta go. There are also a couple of times that were said like, you're leaving the quest mission or whatever, and it wouldn't let you go that way. So it's not fully open world in the cities. From what I could see in the speeder bike areas, the outdoor stuff, that was fully open world. I think you could kind of do whatever you wanted. It was very curated, but in, I think, a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I think they put the limiters on to prevent the Skyrim situation of an entire city getting mad at you. They kind of replaced that with the reputation system, which, yes, is a lot more constrained and defined as opposed to like an actual open world game. One of the other big takeaways I had, I'm curious for your thoughts on this. I actually really liked the writing and the characters.
Oh my gosh. Surprisingly good?
Yeah, I wasn't...
Because I think both Lawrence and I had expectations very low for this.
For a video game, yeah, you're just like, okay, you just hit the bare minimum, give me just enough so that I can run around and shoot stuff and level up, and that'll be it. But no, there's a little more charm here. There's a little more work going into it.
But also, it's a Star Wars video game, so I was expecting even worse.
Yeah.
Literally, we watching The Acolyte, you're watching Ahsoka or whatever, and like, I'm kind of like, and that's a television show. So a lot of supposedly effort has gone into the television show and the writing, and it's not very good. So I expected even worse in this video game, and it's not anywhere close to that. I would say it's actually really endearing and fun. The droid character, who I loved, and he's like, only has a couple of lines. He's very concise. and just really cool. And I also thought the main character was going to get really annoying, and I was really tired of the fact that she's got like another cute companion. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm so tired of this. And it works. Like, it really does. The main character's super cool. She's like, she can kind of get annoying. There's a couple of times that you're like tired of the way she talks, but Nyx is adorable and really helpful. Nyx is absolutely necessary for gameplay in addition to being a cute sidekick.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing, is that a lot of the themes in writing at least have links to gameplay and links to decisions that you actually make. Okay, I think those are some of the high points that kind of impressed us both.
Yeah.
I want to go into a little more detail about some of the new aspects that I saw that I found really cool. And to me, the most important one is how they handle discovery in the open world. They do have like a quest, or like a quest tracking system. There'll be objectives on your radar, and they kind of ping and like show up whenever there's a new one. But I did appreciate that not every quest was marked in the exact same way.
That's true.
So there were some quests where it's just like audio based. There's just somebody being like, hey, and you have to like go talk to them.
Or like listen.
Yeah.
Eavesdrop. Yeah.
Yeah, when the demo started, as soon as they kind of let me do open world stuff, I started because I wanted to see how reactive the game was. And as soon as I started driving around in the open world, there was already like a, hey, go check this out kind of quest. But I would get like a radio call that would cue me into something else. And then I even heard a civilian asking for help. I stopped to help them because they were getting hassled by the Empire. Took care of the Empire, but I got a wanted level from the Empire by doing that.
Right, yeah.
Got a cool skin for my speeder for helping them, which was nice. You get little bonuses for doing things.
I didn't do this, and I missed it. I was actually really bummed I didn't do this.
Yeah, I was really impressed with this flow. And then I got another distress call on the radio. I went there to help them out, but while I was doing that, Imperial patrols would stop and shoot at me because I had already gotten a wanted level. So pretty cool. Like the idea that you choose to do things as opposed to just kind of following waypoints, and then your actions have consequences that persist outside of that side quest. And again, the reputation system is, I think, the overarching representation of that. But yeah, super cool. That's honestly the thing that was lacking, and I think a lot of people identified might have been lacking from Starfield, is that every quest you got just put a very explicit marker in your tracker, and then you would just set it and then warp directly there. You quick load right in front of the NPC you needed to, and then talk to them.
Yeah, this is way more elegant. Way more elegant.
There's more owned discovery, more owned exploration.
It could kind of get overwhelming in the cities. There were a couple of times where like you just see question marks just popping off on your compass. You're at the top of the screen, and since we were on a time limit, I was like, man, I like want to go do these things, but I can't. So that felt a little, maybe overwhelming, but it was not like the typical Ubisoft open up your map and just get assaulted with icons. Thank God. One thing I want to talk about is the GTA wanted level, because a lot of people are talking about like, is the Empire like the cops in GTA? And they are. It isn't exactly like GTA. The wanted level sort of shows up again in your top right, and you get like specific stars. They send larger and larger things at you on the planet, or also in space, which is cool. So like, it'll be some TIE fighters, and then it'll be a giant frigate, and like you can try and kill them if you want. But again, your wanted level goes up and up and up. And this might be the closest you're going to get to GTA in terms of wanted level from what I've seen from other video games. But it's not exactly like that. So I wouldn't expect it to be as seamless as GTA. I don't think that any video game is. But it's still really close.
Yeah, you don't really... I didn't experience a cop chase like GTA, which is, I think, what people like.
Yeah.
Is when you have 50 cop cars chasing you and they're wrecking into each other and causing explosions. I didn't see that level of chaos. I don't think that the game is dense enough for that to happen.
I would agree, yeah.
But it is fun, and it does kind of alter the things you do. Speaking of, in terms of the reputation system...
Oh man, it's just so good.
It's
so
a neat
good.
idea.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of potential there. We'll see. Like, you have to kind of play for tens of hours to know if this is actually executing well. But
yeah.
So the idea is that there's like 4 criminal factions in the world, and you do quests for any of these factions, and your reputation standing with them can swing pretty dramatically. If you're in good standing with a particular faction, they won't attack you outright unless you go into like mega protected areas, but their domain in general, they'll just let you do whatever you want. And then there's vendors that'll sell you like custom items if you're at a certain reputation level,
right, yeah.
which are then used for crafting and upgrades to your gear and equipment and stuff.
This also changes quests too, because if you're going into a quest and it's like,
Yeah.
we need you to go get this part for your blaster, it's with the pikes. But if you have a good standing with the pikes, you just walk right in. And then like, hey, like they say hi to you and you're good. If you do not have a good standing with the pikes, then you have to stealth in, and like you can't kill everybody because then they'll see you and kick you out. Like it becomes a lot harder depending on your standing with each syndicate. And I actually was really impressed with this reputation system because I am kind of tired of faction systems and reputation systems and like Bethesda games and those sorts of, like they're all pretty similar. And I usually don't care. It's usually I'm just sort of like, whatever. Like, who cares where I stand with this faction? I'll just kill them all. In this, you can't do that. And I actually was impressed with whenever they present you with a syndicate choice, they'll give you usually two sides where it'll say like, do you want to do this and improve your standing with the syndicate? Or do you want to do this and make it worse? So it was very clear, which I appreciated. And one thing that I think it was, I can't remember who it was when we were watching all the developers talk about it when we were there at the Ubisoft event, was he was saying it's going to be pretty impossible to have positive standing with all of the syndicates all at the same time. He said it is possible, but it's very hard. And that sounds cool. Jabba the Hutt's one of them, so I'm really excited for the Hutt syndicate to try that because we didn't get to really do that. We had the Pikes and we had Crimson Dawn and we had one other one. The Ashir clan, I think it was the Shiga clan. And I really liked this because again, it was very, very clear. And I liked that versus most other video games that I just sort of bypassed it and didn't care. So
yeah, I agree. There's a gameplay implication to the story decisions you make, which is such a tired phrase.
Yeah.
People have been saying that for 2 decades now, and usually it means interactive movie at best.
Yep, that's right.
But the way this works, since it's mechanical, I really like where it's at. So let's say that the player flow is you see a particular upgrade material that you need from a faction vendor, but they'll only sell it to you if you're like best buds. So then you just start taking contracts from that faction and you refuse to betray them. Not because you give a shit, but because you want the item.
Right.
Which matches the like motivation of the character in the game.
Because they're a scoundrel.
Yeah, you're just a scoundrel and
Yeah.
you're just trying to make your way in the galaxy and you're trying to do you. So I love that whenever the player thinking and the in-character thinking are the same.
Yeah.
I also love that it, like you said, since it's so explicit, it really does give you, the player, agency to pursue something.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you do want to make a mission easier, if you're just getting wrecked in these stealth sequences, ideally you can go out, do some chump work for them, whatever form that takes. Hopefully it's not a go kill 5 womp rats for me. But it might. Who knows?
It might be, yeah.
But yeah, you can do some side work and then come back, see the effects of that other thing you did by walking through this other mission easier. I unintentionally pissed off every faction by doing open world stuff. And then when I had to do the mission you were referring to, I had to stealth. I didn't have any choice.
Right.
Because I had pissed everybody off. Which kind of brings me to the one sticking point, like the biggest sticking point I had, which was, there's some forced stealth sequences.
Oh, man.
And the kind of like old school stealth games, the sequences I played were very like linear. There was one way to get through, and if you didn't follow that golden path, you were just gonna get seen. So it's almost like a puzzle instead of actual stealth.
We really should talk about this more because Lawrence is right. Like, I think everyone was having problem with the stealth. Like, I was watching a lot of other people play the game. I was also having. Lawrence and I are not terrible at video games. The reason I know that this was intentional was I had a developer standing behind me and I was doing one of this very specific stealth section in like this Imperial base. And it's probably toward the beginning of the game. You don't have any perks.
Yeah, you don't have any tools.
You don't have any tools. You just sort of like have to sneak around. And Nyx is the only thing that's going to help you. And I was getting seen over and over and over. And like sometimes, honestly, some of those stealth rules did not apply. And then other times they did. And I was like, well, that doesn't feel consistent. There are also no vision cones, so you don't really know when they're looking. And that was another major problem for me. So when I looked back at the developer and I was like, am I doing this right? And he was like, and he kind of went like, tee-hee. He's like, yeah, you gotta look, like obviously they were like, they wanted you to struggle through these missions. And the weird part about that is that the open world stuff, and the city stuff is fun. It's like super casual and fun. You're kind of running around and like really enjoying yourself and being like, I could shoot things and blow things up, no big deal. And then as soon as you get to that stealth up, you're dead over and over and over. You get seen, get kicked out, alarm goes off. It's just like, fuck me, like this is a lot. So it felt very casual in one sense and then really hard in another sense. And I think that's by design, because I think the hints that the developers gave us were, as the game progresses, you're supposed to get really good at that stuff. And you kind of become a gunslinger. You're not really even doing stealth anymore. You're just going in and killing people, just like right and left. But you can't do that at the beginning of the game. And I think Lawrence and I were talking about this before. It's probably going to throw people off from the beginning. And people might put this down and be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's uncharacteristic given that the rest of the game is so welcoming. It doesn't really slam you with a lot of challenge or game over screens or you failed screens until you get to those parts. Which, yeah, if you're just used to just running and shooting and having fun, then suddenly the game's like, no, you have to do it exactly this way.
Yeah.
Those sequences are pretty short.
They are, yeah.
Like you said, they're at the beginning of the game. So I think those are kind of like the linear scripted parts they want you to get through for story reasons. You did touch on something, though, which is as the game goes on, you get upgrades and get more abilities. That's actually pretty cool, and it's different than the like material upgrade system. It's the master system, I guess.
Yeah.
Kay finds these wizened ancient masters of various, I don't know, whatever in the galaxy. The teacher things. Like they all have their cards in the menu. But those are unlocked by in-game actions. So if you get like 5 stealth knockouts, then you do you get something that upgrades your stealth. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to experience a lot of those upgrades.
Because we didn't have a persistent character. So
yeah, but I do like the idea that in-game actions are what it takes instead of grinding up materials or just spending a bunch of money to get better stealth.
But there is that too, Lawrence, what you're describing. There is a bunch of collecting of materials, and also you'll have credits. So you can do other things that way too, just so you know. It's all in there. So.
Yeah. It's pretty broad, and a lot of the mechanical hooks tie into each other pretty well from what I saw. Which is that, if you do side quests, you get some kind of trinket, or maybe like a 1 of 8 of a rare material you need to upgrade your poncho or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's, again, we can't pass judgment on how it'll tie together in the whole game. But so far, like, it hit a lot of those beats that a lot of open world games haven't lately, which is that your player choice does affect how the rest of the game goes, and that the rewards you get makes sense in terms of it's not just stuff for stuff's sake, I guess.
That's true, yeah. Character-wise, they do make sense, and that is maybe something that we didn't give them enough credit for. At least, the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, this feels very intentional and curated. Those are the right words for me, because when we were listening to the developers talk about it, they really cared about every single aspect of what was happening. Now, I know you always hear that all the time.
I always hear that, yeah.
But when you played the game, you felt it. And that's really nice to feel in a Star Wars game, because like a lot of the times I think people just go like, it's a Star Wars game, so just throw some skins on it, you fight some droids, and everybody loves it. And this is not that. This really does feel like there's I'm actually kind of curious to get back into the game and play the story, because I'd like to see what happens to the characters, which is very rare for me. Very rare. And again, I like Star Wars, so maybe I'm biased, but I don't know. If it sucked, I would tell you it sucked.
Yeah, that's true. Here's I think a good concrete example of something like that. So you talked about stealth. I did see there was an upgrade card called Fast Talk, I think.
Yeah.
Which is like if somebody sees you and they're like, "Hey," then you put your hands up and you just start fast talking them, like Han Solo always did.
Exactly.
And that actually like makes it so they don't raise an alarm for a while. So you have like 5 seconds to figure out what you're gonna do. You can look around, see how many dudes there are, quick draw, and like kill them, or do something else. But that's one of those things where they took the scoundrel archetype and found a way to convert that persona into gameplay mechanics that are pretty clearly communicated. And then if you take advantage of them, you end up recreating some pretty familiar Star Wars scenes, which I thought was neat. Just in terms of the writing as well, the writing is good, and it's also short.
That's true, yeah.
A lot of quick back and forth, a lot of like punchy, like expressive writing. And that's uncommon for a video game. Video games usually like their words, especially if they have a brand.
Yeah,
they just
really
love wallowing around. And,
yeah, they do.
Refreshing lack of references.
I was just about to say, there's no like or what do you call it? The
Like fan service.
fan service. There's no fan service.
Not yet.
Which we that's true.
No surprise walkthrough from Darth Vader that we saw. But.
I think we know that there's going to be at least one or two characters that they've like teased. I won't spoil them, but that you'll know. But like, thank God that we didn't have I don't think once I heard anyone say I have a bad feeling about this.
Right?
Thank God. Like I was like, because I thought for sure I was going to fire this up. And it's going to be somebody flying through space, and TIE fighters show up, and they go, I have a bad feeling about... It didn't happen. And I was like, that's great. Like, good, I'm glad. Like, I would just stay away from fan service. I don't want fan service in a Star Wars game. I'd love to just see some new stuff.
I agree. There's a lot of stuff that feels like Star Wars. And again, I think that's something that would probably be said about any promotional thing. But it's not close enough to be eye-rolling because I'm pretty jaded with it at this point. And it didn't hit that level for me. Got close a couple times, but it's just familiar scenes. Like there's a part where you have to wait for somebody to prep your ship before it'll take off. So you're sitting there at the loading dock shooting stormtroopers as they run in. The ramp goes down and you run up with laser blasts going over your shoulder. It's just like A New Hope, but it was at a different time, different place. But it felt familiar. It felt right.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of that kind of thing. Aside from all that, there were just some general other bits that kind of stuck out to me. I really liked that when you're on the speeder bike, it has little rumble triggers that feel really good.
Oh.
You can feel the engine idling when you're sitting there. It even idles unsteady, so sometimes it goes.
I played it with mouse and keyboard, so I didn't get any of that. Okay.
But yeah, feedback triggers, great, especially on the ship or on a bike. One thing that I am a sucker for is when a game has fictional shows inside of it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, it always gets me. Remedy games do this a lot, but there are fake shows inside of Star Wars Outlaws, and it's great. I found a radio drama called Glarmok and Yabasi. And it's just two, I guess, interspace detectives solving mysteries together.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. I think it's just a sign of the effort that was put in. And normally in a AAA game, effort just means there's 500 side quests. But I think there's more vibrance here than usual.
I actually, I'd never even encountered that fake show, but I did encounter a bunch of mini games.
Yeah.
Because I think you're on Canto Bight, I think, at the beginning. And so there's games that you could bet on. Like there's horse racing. Did you do the horse racing?
I didn't know.
The horse racing was...
Did never have enough money.
It's really funny because you just go on and it's like, do you want to bet on this horse? And by the way, it's all in that Star Wars Arabesh. And you have no idea what it says. You're just sort of guessing. And you're like, this, I think it's this. And so you bet, and then it shows the horse race, and you win or lose. There was a fun little endless runner that you could play. There's obviously Sabacc, which I didn't get to touch the card game. But I'm super excited to play that because I think that's a pretty big sticking point for a lot of Star Wars fans. Is you finally get to play Sabacc, which is nobody really knows the rules of. So that'll be curious. We don't have any gameplay B-roll of that because I don't think you played it. I didn't. So.
No, I had a quest to find a secret high-stakes Sabacc game, and I was almost there. Then we ran out of time.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
Although it's funny you bring up horse races, I did find data pads that would be like, hey, we fixed this race. Put a bet on the tallest horse.
Oh.
So it wouldn't just straight up tell you, but it was always one logical leap away. So you had to do a small amount of thinking and connect things for the result you wanted. So I like that too. I like it when things are a little bit subtle. One thing I was curious to get your thoughts on because let's see, your IGN published a gameplay video and people were not happy or underwhelmed with the graphics and performance. Yeah.
They were mad.
I gotta be honest, I haven't seen the video myself because I was lucky enough to see the game running. I have no qualms with the game's performance at all. I was playing on PC. There were it never knocked my socks off, but it was still looked really good. I think Avatar is a good point of visual comparison, but how do you feel about that, Bruce? Were you concerned about the game's performance or visuals at all?
Never. I mean, it might have done a couple of random hitching, which games usually do when you load into different worlds or whatever. But I never had an issue. I mean, it looked really good to me. And I actually did notice that the gameplay that I uploaded after editing it and stuff like that does not look as good as the actual game when you're playing it in person. It's the same with the Avatar game, actually. The Avatar game I was raving about on Twitch. I was just like, it looks so good. And I went back and watched the streams and I was like, this is not at all representative of what the game looks like. So maybe that's what people saw. I'm not sure. Also, very important that everyone's going to talk about, and they've already asked, and they've already showed video, but I'll show it again. You do fly from space to a planet, and from a planet to space. That happens in the game. It's clearly a loading screen, but they hide the loading screen behind animations. So it feels like you fly from space to the planet. Like, it's not like Starfield where you just like cut to black and then you landed or whatever. None of that bullshit. You actually really do the thing. It's not as seamless as like a No Man's Sky, but it's close. And, you know, they hide it behind you going through the atmosphere and some clouds and stuff, and then you're good to go. So I think that is really cool, and it does keep you immersed in the game. So. Yeah,
I agree. It doesn't matter. Like, if the illusion works, then it works. You know, movies have been based on this principle for a century plus. So to me, it worked too. Yeah, if you really look for it, you can see when it, you know, unloads space and loads in a map or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't break a camera. And it feels cool when the music swells and you see like the land zooming up when you're flying down to a new planet.
Yeah.
So yes, that's cool, and it matters, and it's awesome. So
it does matter, yeah.
Yeah, the unbroken camera movement from like getting on your ship, flying, stuff like that. Cool stuff.
I do want to talk. Like, I'm glad you brought up the IGN video that it was like had a bunch of dislikes and stuff, because I don't know how this game is going to be received. I'm very curious. Lawrence and I have now played about 8 hours of this, and I really enjoyed it. I keep having fun, and when I keep hearing people shit on it, I'm like, have they played it? Like, it's really interesting because I don't know that I don't like. I have my negative, you know, I have my problems with it, but it doesn't feel at all like it deserves the hate it's getting right now online. Now, I can't say anything about their launch. I have no idea what their launch is going to be. They have that, you know, the 3-day early access and the whole thing, and
no,
I don't know if it's going to launch in the same state that we played it in. It could be worse. But as of now, what I see online in terms of internet feedback versus what I've played, they do not vibe at all. Like, it's like all the things that I've seen people comment on are wrong. They're just flat out wrong. So like, I'm like, this could be a much better game than people are giving it credit for. So I've been waiting to see what people think about our gameplay and our videos.
Interesting. I think you're going back to a previous topic. I think you're right that internet video encoding does not do 4K games any service right now, unless you just dump a ton of resources into making the video look good. So that could have been a problem, that all the detail got lost in blockiness and encoding. In terms of like negativity, I don't know, man. It's kind of easy to hate on Star Wars these days.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But I do think once people start playing it, and I think once you start making decisions and you get into the flow of the game and you get rewarded for those decisions, I think that will hook a lot of people. I do think stealth might be an early place for people to bonk out. There were a couple of other things that I saw other people had issue with, like you can pick up specialty weapons, blasters and things, but the second you do anything, Kay just drops it, and you can't carry it with you, and that's not the point. So you get these like special weapons for use in one room only, but the second you climb a ladder or get on your speeder, she chucks it. So some people, you know, didn't like that so much. So there's some decisions made to kind of make sure that things are locked in, kept in a pen. I think the limiters put on you in a city might annoy some people. But to me, this has the hallmarks of, and I know that this is a complicated game for reasons outside of what the game is, but Hogwarts Legacy sold a shitload, and it was a loved brand that never really had an open world game yet. So that's kind of where we are with Star Wars Outlaws, unless you count Lego Star Wars. There hasn't really been this kind of game ever. Or like the Old Republic, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right, Lauren. Hogwarts Legacy is probably the best comparison, because Hogwarts Legacy it puts you into the Harry Potter universe, which was awesome, and the game itself was, again, very curated. So it was an open world, but you know, there were things you couldn't do, and that was by design. They wanted you to not, you know, glitch yourself off into a wall and try and climb up a hill with a horse or whatever. Like they wanted it to be that way. And it sold a ton, and people really liked it. So it'll be really interesting to see if this lands in that same spot. The problem is it's made by Ubisoft. So a lot of people are very upset at Ubisoft already. So what I will say is, spend the $18 and just play it for a month or whatever. Don't buy the retail if you're worried about the $70 price tag and in the deluxe edition and all that other garbage. Just spend the $18 on the Ubisoft Plus for 30 days. Play it that way. And then that way you'll know if you really like it or not. Because I wouldn't invest in this if you're worried.
That's sound advice. I agree. Yeah, the early access stuff kind of irks me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mostly just because of the semantic BS. I don't know. Why not? They're launching a game at 120, and then it's going on sale later. Is really, well, whatever. I've ranted about that a million times. Yeah, It's tough to predict what people will do, Bruce. Isn't
I don't know. I really don't, because Hogwarts Legacy, like, obviously, apart from the other, like, social issues, everybody really liked it, and it sold a ton. So I think this game is like that.
Yeah.
And from what I played, and I don't know that it's going to get the credit that it will deserve right out. We'll see. I could be totally wrong.
I think most people will appreciate the effort and the intentional design that went into it, even if they don't know they're appreciating it. I think they'll just sit down and have fun being like, wow, this feels like good Star Wars again. Because that's how it felt for me, minus, some of the sticking points in Force Stealth and things like that. So if people can get through that or are on board with it to begin with, I think this will satisfy a lot of people that have been yearning for a particular brand or flavor of Star Wars that hasn't really been around much. Apart from that, I can also say with confidence that if anything's popular enough, it's going to have a group of haters.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll get together and come up with some weird talking points that aren't even in the game just to be mad at it. It's going to happen, probably. So get ready for that, too.
That's true, Lawrence. Also, from what I've known, she doesn't have Force powers. So I don't think she is going to be a Jedi.
Turns out she's another Skywalker or some shit. God,
I think
hope
it's
not.
just going to be she's a scoundrel.
Yeah.
I think she's just a smuggler, and that's the game.
Yeah, she just wants to, like, get free, right? Get enough money, one final score, so that she never has to get, like, tossed around again.
Yeah.
That's pretty universal aspiration, and hopefully doesn't end in her, like, taking on Darth Vader one-on-one and beating him.
It's funny because everybody always beats Darth Vader in these video games.
Dude, they slap him around, yeah. Only in video games, though.
No, it's we'll see. And I will say again, like, if you're worried at all, don't pre-order the game. Check it out on Ubisoft Plus if you're really curious. But we've still got a while. We've got about a month till the release, so hopefully this gameplay has given you a little more insight into the game rather than the 10,000 dislikes that was on that IGN video. Because I really don't think it deserves that. So
I don't either. Yeah, and I think this will pleasantly surprise a lot of people in the way that it pleasantly surprised me. So thanks Ubisoft for having us out to the event and paying for a lovely day in Disneyland for both of us. Disclosure, and if that makes us shills, then whatever. It was a great day.
I mean, it was fun. Yeah, and I would have told you that the game sucked if it sucked, but it didn't. So
yeah.